With a series of audacious initiatives, McLaren hopes to transform the F1 environment by expanding its technical staff and improving its aero division. 15 new aero experts from elite teams like Ferrari, Red Bull, and Aston Martin are due to join the squad, it has been announced, following the recent resignation of technical director James Key and the arrival of David Sanchez from Ferrari in 2024. Mariano Alperin, head of aero performance and analysis at Aston Martin, is one notable acquisition. He was instrumental in the British manufacturer's incredible advancements that propelled the team onto the top of the grid and gave Red Bull a fight for their money. Alperin has a wealth of expertise and has worked with AGS, Minardi, British American Racing, and Honda, where from 2006 to 2007 he was the head of aerodynamics. After working with Honda, he joined Sauber in 2008 as the company's head of aerodynamic development. He remained there until 2019, when he moved on to become the head of aerodynamic technology at Aston Martin. In addition to the new team members, McLaren is eager to take advantage of the end-of-year completion of its new wind tunnel and simulator. These major modifications to put McLaren at the front of the grid were brought on by CEO Zak Brown's admission that the team's organizational capabilities had been lacking in recent years. In a concerted effort to improve the performance of its Formula One squad, McLaren has hired top Aston Martin aerodynamicist Mariano Alperin. After last week's restructure of its technical division, which saw the resignation of technical director James Key and the announcement that former Ferrari employee David Sanchez will join in 2024, McLaren has been working hard to hire more senior employees. Its aero section was not as strong as it needed to be to meet its objectives to move farther up the grid, according to a thorough evaluation of its organization that was conducted over the winter. It has been reported that as part of its effort to grow the aero department, it has now reached agreements with 15 people, some of whom have already joined and some of whom must first complete gardening leave. It is believed that members of a number of elite teams, including Ferrari, Red Bull, and Aston Martin, make up the senior staff. One of the main players is Alperin, head of aero performance and analysis at Aston Martin, who has contributed to the transition of the British automaker into Red Bull's primary rival in Formula One. After stints at AGS and Minardi, Alperin joined British American Racing and finally rose to the position of head of aerodynamics at Honda from 2006 to 2007. After leaving Honda, he worked as the chief of aerodynamic technology at Sauber from 2008 until 2019, before transferring to Aston Martin. The Woking-based company McLaren recently underwent a reorganization, as a result of which Sanchez is now in charge of car concept, Peter Prodromou is in charge of aerodynamics, and Neil Hoadley is in charge of engineering and design. The three will answer to Andrea Stella, team principal. To take advantage of the potential that will arise once its new wind tunnel and simulator are fully operational later this year, according to McLaren, change was necessary. The squad is currently undertaking big adjustments since CEO Zak Brown made it plain that he believed the structure had been missing in recent years. It has been clear to me for some time that our technical development has not moved at a quick enough pace to match our ambition of returning to the front of the grid. I'm pleased that, having completed a full review with Andrea, we are now able to implement the restructure required to set the wheels in motion to turn this around. McLaren has clarified that the primary factor behind the early troubles with its new Formula One vehicle is a lack of aerodynamic efficiency. The Woking-based team has been upfront about its dissatisfaction with the MCL60's basic specification since it was introduced, claiming that it lacked competitiveness in the Bahrain pre-season test. It is unaware of the exact level of difficulties it will encounter in next week's F1 season opening, but it is still confident that the improvements slated for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix would enable it to turn things around. Team leader Andrea Stella has provided more explanations for what has gone wrong after CEO Zak Brown earlier on Friday acknowledged that the team had failed development goals for the car. And he asserts that its largest disadvantage right now is in terms of aerodynamic efficiency, which means it is generating too much drag for a given degree of downforce. This forces the team to reduce downforce, which slows it down in turns, in order to maintain its competitiveness on the straights. Last year, we had some clear objectives in terms of development. They had to do with aerodynamic efficiency, some development related to the exploitation of the tires, and some other objectives to improve the balance. Nevertheless, the majority of these goals have really been accomplished. Yet, they are still short of our aim in terms of the objective for the car's aerodynamic efficiency. Hence, some of the goals have been achieved. They still haven't reached their desired level of aerodynamic efficiency or top 4 challenger status. They would thus claim that is one where they still fall short. Stella went on to say that the results of the tests had not been unexpected because they were consistent with what the factory's data had been showing them over the previous weeks. I think based on what I've seen in these 2 days, our performance is pretty much where I expected it to be, added Stella. Stella added to the discussion by stating that the data supports their expectations in terms of aerodynamics. Even in terms of performance, they can judge anything based on lap times in testing because they are aware that lap times can vary depending on circumstances, fuel level, and engine mode. We all know we have work to do, but if we think about the season, it is long and there can be variations in the competitive order. And like I said already in the car launch, we know there's a good development rate. That's where we are focusing. So I think the start will have to be realistic, but in terms of looking ahead to the season, we remain optimistic. Asked what the realistic expectation was for the Bahrain GP, Stella admitted that being in the midfield group meant there was a chance of a Q1 departure as well as making it through to Q3. She was asked what the realistic expectation was for the Bahrain Grand Prix. She believes they will observe the midfield's tightness once more, and because of this, they may find it difficult to exit Q1 if they don't do a good enough job of setting up and making the most of what they have. They may also be a Q3 candidate at the same time. Hence, the fork is very broad because they perceive it to be somewhat open. They believe that if she were to discuss their level of competition, they would mention that their season-long goal is to maintain a top 4 position. They stated that they are now not necessarily in this range. It is also evident that the crew has added about 15 additional members who will work on the aerodynamics of the vehicle. Mariano Alperin, a visitor from Aston Martin, is one of them. Moreover, experts from Mercedes and Red Bull are moving to McLaren. They soon won't need to go to Cologne for some of their jobs. Instead, they'll be able to stay in Woking. The new wind tunnel ought to be ready by mid-June. As Norris and Piastri observed on a tour of the wind tunnel immediately before they traveled to Melbourne for the Australian Grand Prix, preparations are definitely advanced. Well, that marks the close of this video. Do like and subscribe to the channel for more interesting videos like these. Also, press the bell icon to get the latest updates from our channel. We will see you in our next video. Have a great day. Bye-bye.